This movie tells the story of a world facing apocalypse due to the attack of giant monsters trying to destroy the Earth. Then, some humans create giant robots to save the planet. Can they save the Earth? Watch this recap until the end. Be aware of spoilers. Share your thoughts in the comment section. You can also request your favorite movies for us to recap in our next video. Enjoy watching. At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to two terms. First, Kaiju, from the Japanese language, meaning giant beast. Second, Jaeger, from German, meaning hunter. We are then explained about the initial attack by aliens from another dimension. These aliens don't come from outer space, but through an interdimensional portal located deep in the Pacific Ocean. They come through a gap between two tectonic plates. The first Kaiju appears in San Francisco Bay. At that time, tanks, jets, and missiles managed to incapacitate the monster in 6 days. However, in those 6 days, the monster's attack destroys 3 cities and claims tens of thousands of lives. 6 months later, the second Kaiju attack hits Manila, Philippines. Then the third attack hits Cabo, and so on. Humanity realizes that this won't stop. They need a new weapon. All nations in the world unite, forgetting their rivalries, the survival of humanity. They create their own monster with a giant robot to repel the Kaiju attacks. They call this the Jaeger program. Initially, Jaegers are controlled by one pilot, but the neural load to connect with the Jaeger is too heavy for one person. Eventually, a 2-pilot system is implemented, each controlling the right and left side of the Jaeger. Then, in the year 2020, the 7th year of the Kaiju War, 2 Jaeger pilots are awakened by an alarm for a Category 3 Kaiju attack, the largest ever seen. These 2 pilots are Raleigh Beckett and his brother, Yancey Beckett. They pilot a Jaeger named Gypsy Danger. They are not the smartest or champion athletes, but they successfully control the Jaeger and defeat the Kaiju because they have a compatible drift or mind bridge, allowing them to coordinate in controlling Gypsy Danger. They got ready and entered the cockpit of Gypsy Danger. The crew was also preparing. Tendo Choi was seen giving information from a distance. Then Stacker Pentecost arrived to lead this mission. The cockpit of Gypsy Danger was finally lowered and attached to its robot body. Before they could operate, the Jaeger pilots had to connect their minds to each other through a neural bridge. This allowed both pilots to see each other's past memories. The deeper the memories shared, the better they could control the Jaeger. Once the pilots' minds were connected, Gypsy Danger was ready to operate. The giant robot walked through the sea and storms. Elsewhere, in the middle of the ocean, a ship was caught in a storm. The ship's crew was shocked when they suddenly faced a giant Kaiju. Panic increased when Jaeger Gypsy Danger appeared behind them. Gypsy Danger then picked up their ship and moved it aside. Suddenly, a fight broke out between Gypsy Danger and the Kaiju. Gypsy Danger managed to knock down the Kaiju with 2 plasma cannon shots. The pilots, Raleigh Beckett and his brother Yancey, thought they had defeated the Kaiju. However, the surprisingly strong Kaiju rose again, shocking the 2 pilots inside the Jaeger. The battle continued until Gypsy Danger's left arm was broken. The Kaiju tore through the Jaeger's body and took Yancey Beckett's life, an unexpected event for Raleigh. Forced to fight alone, Raleigh controlled Gypsy Danger by himself against the rampaging Kaiju. In another place, on a snowy beach, a father and son were searching for treasure with a metal detector. They witnessed the badly damaged Gypsy Danger collapsing nearby. Raleigh emerged from the robot limping and fainted, found by the 2. 5 years after Gypsy Danger was destroyed, Marshal Stacker Pentecost received a report from world leaders. They decided to close the Jaeger program, deeming it unreliable. They planned to replace it with the Life Wall program. The world leaders instructed Pentecost to move all remaining Jaegers to the final base in Hong Kong. The Jaeger program would be funded for 8 more months while the coastal wall was being built. After that, there would be no more funding. In Alaska, Raleigh, the former pilot of Gypsy Danger, was now working on welding the wall designed to hold back the Kaijus. During a break, Raleigh and the other workers saw news of a massive Category 4 Kaiju emerging in Australia. The Kaiju broke through the life wall in less than an hour, proving the wall's weakness. The workers beside the relief wall started to feel pessimistic that the wall they were building could stop the Kaiju. Ironically, in Australia, a Kaiju was defeated by a Jaeger named Striker Eureka, piloted by father and son, Hercules Hansen and Chuck Hansen. Soon after, they heard a helicopter. It was Stacker Pentecost arriving to meet Raleigh. Pentecost invited Raleigh to pilot again. At first, Relay refused because he was traumatized by what happened to his brother, but Pentecost convinced Relay that the world was on the brink of apocalypse and gave him a choice: die inside the wall or fight in a Jaeger. Then they both arrived at the main Jaeger base, the Shatterdome in Hong Kong. There, Relay and Pentecost were greeted by Officer Mako Mori. Mako Mori introduced Relay to the research team, Dr. Newton Geisler and Dr. Hermann Gottlieb. They were then taken to the dome where the Jaeger garage was. Above them, they saw the doomsday clock, showing the prediction of the next Kaiju attack. Pentecost explained that the place used to hold 30 Jaegers, but now only 4 remained. The first was Crimson Typhoon, assembled in China and piloted by the 3 Wei-Tang brothers. The second was Chedo Alpha, the heaviest and oldest first-generation Jaeger, piloted by the couple Sasha and Alexis Kaidanovsky. Pentecost then took Relay to meet Hercules Hansen, father of Chuck Hansen. They were the pilots of Striker Eureka, the world's fastest and newest Jaeger, which had defeated 10 Kaijus. Pentecost explained his plan to carry a 1,000 kg nuclear warhead on the back of Striker Eureka and destroy the Kaiju portal in the sea. The other Jaegers were tasked with protecting Striker Eureka during this mission. Relay was hesitant, recalling a failed attempt years ago. After a moment of reflection, Stacker Pentecost reassured his team. This time, he had a more capable research team and was confident they would succeed in destroying the portal. In the research room, Gottlieb found that the frequency of Kaiju appearances was increasing. In the next 7 days, they predicted 2 Kaijus would appear at the same time, then 3 and then 4, leading to a possible apocalypse. Gottlieb had a plan to handle the increased traffic through the interdimensional portal tunnel. The plan was to keep the portal open long enough to insert a bomb and then detonate it. Newton Geisler, another scientist, was pessimistic about Gottlieb's plan, doubting they had complete information about the portal. Newton, with a crazy idea, decided to drift with a Kaiju. He believed this would give them complete information about the portal. Meanwhile, Stacker preferred Gottlieb's option. Elsewhere, Mako Mori escorts Relay Beckett to see the repaired Jaeger, Gypsy Danger. There, Relay reunites with his old friend, Tendo Choi. Mako then shares her story about her ambition to become a Jaeger pilot. Despite having perfect scores in simulation training, she is not allowed to become a pilot by Stacker Pentecost. The next day, Mako approaches Stacker, pleading to be allowed to co-pilot Gypsy Danger with Relay. However, Stacker refuses because Mako still has unstable emotions which are dangerous during drift. Meanwhile, in the dining room, Chuck Hansen, son of Hercules Hansen, openly expresses his hatred towards Relay for his failure in a previous mission. Relay, unaffected, continues to focus on the upcoming mission. After that, Relay holds auditions to find a suitable co-pilot for himself. Although he easily defeats the candidates, he does not find the right drift compatibility. However, when dueling with Mako, he realizes that only Mako has the compatible drift with him. Relay wants Mako to be his co-pilot, but Stacker still refuses. After training, Relay approaches Mako, expressing his wish for her to be his co-pilot. Mako really wants to be a Jaeger pilot, but she can't do anything without Stacker's approval. In frustration, Newton finally drifts with Kaiju brain alone. In the drift, he realizes that the Kaijus are cloned monsters by aliens to attack Earth. The next day, Relay comes out of his room to do a nerve test in Gypsy Danger. He tries to invite Mako, but stops because Stacker enters the room. Finally, Stacker relents and allows Mako to try to become the co-pilot of Gypsy Danger with Relay. When Relay enters the cockpit of Gypsy Danger, he is surprised to find that his co-pilot this time is Mako Mori. They then prepare for the nerve test in the cockpit of Gypsy Danger. Relay, relaxed and macho, tries to synchronize his mind through the drift. Suddenly, Dr. Gottlieb enters Stacker's room, reporting that he has successfully drifted in interspecies with a Kaiju. Stacker Pentecost approaches them, and Newton Geisler explains that the Kaijus don't attack randomly, but they are tools of aliens trying to colonize Earth. Category 1 to 4 Kaijus are just the beginning. The aliens are preparing a final weapon to destroy all life on Earth. Stacker asks Newton to drift again to get more complete information. However, Newton needs a fresh and living Kaiju brain. Stacker then gets information about Hannibal Chow, who sells black market items including Kaiju body organs. Stacker then instructs Newton to meet Hannibal Chow. Elsewhere, Mako is trapped in the memories of her past. She recalls the Kaiju attack that killed her parents. Fearful, she gets stuck in this memory. accidentally activating Gypsy Danger's weapon system. Everyone panics. Rayleigh tries to calm Marco, who eventually comes to her senses but then faints. After a long search, Newton finally meets Hannibal Chow at his headquarters. Meanwhile, Chuck Hansen is angry after witnessing Marco's actions that endangered everyone. A fight breaks out between Rayleigh and Chuck, but Chuck's father, Herc, breaks it up. After this incident, Stacker decides to relieve Marco of her duties because of what happened. Marco looks sad as she walks away from the room. Rayleigh realizes that the main reason Stacker doesn't want Marco to be a Jaeger pilot is that she is his adopted daughter. Stacker saved Marco when she was a child and raised her. He knows being a Jaeger pilot is very risky and doesn't want to lose Marco. Later, Rayleigh has dinner with Marco. He explains that the first drifting experience is always tough. In another place, an alert is heard about two Jaegers appearing in the Hong Kong Sea. Stacker assigns Crimson Typhoon and Shadow Alpha to face them, while Striker Eureka is on standby. Marco and Rayleigh are ordered to stay at the base. The three Jaegers head towards the Hong Kong coast to confront the Jaegers. Elsewhere, Newton tells Hannibal Chow that he is looking for a live Kaiju brain. Hannibal realizes that Newton has drifted with a Kaiju and calls it a big mistake. In the Hong Kong Sea, Crimson Typhoon and Shadow Alpha struggle against the Jaegers. Striker Eureka, with Chuck eager to fight, decides to join the battle after seeing the other two Jaegers in trouble. Crimson Typhoon falls, Shadow Alpha gets hit by acid and is damaged, eventually being destroyed. Striker Eureka enters the fray and attacks one of the Jaegers. In a critical moment, as Striker Eureka prepares to launch a missile, a shocking event occurs. A massive shockwave disables Striker Eureka's electricity, causing chaos throughout Hong Kong. Striker is completely paralyzed, leaving everyone in confusion. In a critical situation, the order was given to deploy Gypsy Danger. Unlike the modern Striker, Gypsy is an older version of a Jaeger that is still analog. It is powered by two nuclear reactors and is not integrated with a digital system. This makes it immune to the deadly shock waves. The fight between Gypsy Danger and the Kaiju is fierce. Gypsy manages to disable one Kaiju with a plasma shot. Rayleigh ensures the Kaiju's defeat with a few more shots. However, another Kaiju surprises them by emerging from a hole dug towards the bunker in search of Newton. Gypsy Danger quickly uses a barge to defeat the Kaiju. The Kaiju flees, but Gypsy Danger does not give up and chases it. The Kaiju, hiding behind buildings, attacks Gypsy Danger again. Their fight is intense until Gypsy Danger is nearly destroyed and thrown into space. In a desperate situation, Gypsy Danger unleashes its sword and cuts off the Kaiju's wings. Despite being in the atmosphere, Rayleigh manages to ignite the fuel and safely brings Gypsy Danger back to Earth. Back at the Shatterdome, everyone congratulates Rayleigh and Marco on their success in defeating two Kaiju at once. Hercules Hansen and Chuck Hansen, the pilots of Striker Eureka, also thank them for their rescue. Stacker Pentecost, proud of his adoptive daughter Marco, is seen bleeding from his nose, a sign that his condition is worsening due to radiation exposure. At the Kaiju carcass location, Hannibal Chow and his workers begin to harvest the Kaiju's body organs. While targeting the Kaiju's brain, they are shocked to discover that the Kaiju was pregnant and gives birth. However, the baby Kaiju does not survive long. Suddenly, Hannibal Chow is swallowed and eaten by the baby Kaiju, which then dies. At the Shatterdome, Stacker talks about his exposure to radiation from piloting the first version of the Jaeger, which was still imperfect. He believes that only he and Rayleigh have survived since then. Soon after, they receive news of another Kaiju appearing near the portal. This becomes their last chance to carry out the mission to destroy the portal. Striker Eureka and Gypsy Danger prepare for their final battle. At Newton's place, this time Gottlieb agrees to drift into a Kaiju's brain together. In the Shatterdome, Chuck Hansen is confused because his father, Herc, is injured and he doesn't know who will be his partner in piloting the Jaeger Striker Eureka. Then Stacker Pentecost appears, wearing a pilot's uniform, ready to co-pilot Striker Eureka with Chuck. Marco looks disapproving because of Stacker's health, but Stacker insists on going. Stacker gives a message to the whole team that this mission is the final one, aiming to cancel the apocalypse. Chuck, now paired with Stacker, says goodbye to his father, Herc, who realizes this final mission is a suicide mission. Bravely, Herc lets his son go, wanting the world to know his son is off to cancel the apocalypse. The Jaegers are then launched. Elsewhere, Newton and Godley drift with a kaiju brain and see what's inside. After a trick, they both look anxious and hurry to inform about the futile plan to destroy the portal. Meanwhile, Striker Eureka and Gypsy Danger enter the sea to find and blow up the kaiju dimensional portal. Around them, two high-speed kaiju lurk. As Striker is about to approach the portal, in the control room, Newton and Gottlieb appear, stopping Striker. According to Newton, even if the portal is open, it doesn't mean it can be entered. The portal bomb needs kaiju DNA detection to pass through. If it's not a kaiju, anything that enters will be thrown back, and the mission will fail. They must use a kaiju to enter the portal if they want to breach it. In the midst of the discussion, Choi detects the emergence of a very large, history's largest, Category 5 kaiju. Indeed, in front of Striker, a massive kaiju appears. Behind them, Gypsy Danger, trying to help Eureka, is also attacked, losing an arm. Gypsy Danger manages to stab the head of the attacking kaiju. Then the kaiju escapes. The kaiju swims fast towards Gypsy. Then Gypsy kills the kaiju by slicing its belly with a sword. Elsewhere, Striker Eureka is powerless. The Category 5 kaiju attacks Striker Eureka. Gypsy Danger, severely injured, tries to reach Striker Eureka to help. Marshall and Chuck inside Striker Eureka have an idea to explode the bomb they carry and destroy the attacking kaiju. Stacker orders Relay to take Gypsy Danger, which has 2 nuclear cores, to the portal and detonate the nuclear to close the portal. Stacker gives a final salute to Mako Mori and then detonates Striker Eureka. The explosion is massive. Meanwhile, holding onto a kaiju carcass, Gypsy Danger tries to enter the portal, but a Category 5 kaiju is still alive and blocks their way. Using its thrusters, Gypsy jumps to grab the kaiju, falling together into the portal. The kaiju wraps around Gypsy and damages its oxygen system. Rayleigh fires at the kaiju, cooking it, and the kaiju dies. Finally, Gypsy Danger enters the portal. However, Mako is running out of oxygen. Rayleigh then puts Mako into a pod and throws her towards the sea surface. Rayleigh, alone in the damaged Jaeger, must manually activate Gypsy Danger's explosives. As Gypsy Danger exits the portal, entering the alien dimension, Relay successfully activates the bomb in Gypsy Danger and rushes into a lifeboat. Gypsy Danger explodes and destroys the portal to the kaiju dimension. A while later, the pods of Mako and Relay finally surface. Mako tries to help Relay, who is briefly not breathing, but Relay is still alive. They smile happily together. Marshall Herc Hansen, who replaces Stacker Pentecost, officially orders the doomsday clock to be turned off. Elsewhere, Hannibal Chow, who was eaten by a baby kaiju, turns out to be alive. And thus ends the story of the movie Pacific Rim. Thank you for watching until the end.